I listened to everyone. Their problems, their drama, their silence. Then one day, I tried to speak and realized no one was listening. So I stopped. That's when everything changed. You ever have one of those moments where you suddenly realize, like actually feel it in your bones, that nobody really sees you? I do not mean being invisible in a crowd. I mean standing in the middle of people who call you their friend, their coworker, their sibling, and realizing not one of them knows how you are doing. That hit me in the break room at work. Real boring setting for a breakdown, right? The coffee machine was sputtering like it always does, and I was leaning against the counter, nodding while Marcus from sales went off about how his girlfriend weaponized silence. Yeah, those were his words. He was tearing up, rubbing his forehead like the world was collapsing. And I was there like always, shoulder to cry on, emotional sponge. I said, "That sounds really heavy, man." Even offered to help him draft a message. I have done that before, more times than I can count. Texts, apology speeches, job interview prep, you name it. And once Marcus had spilled his guts and thanked me with a slap on the back, he walked off without even looking at me twice. No, how are you, man? Not even a what's new with you. It hit me then. How many times that has happened? And how many people rely on me to be that guy? The one who listens. The one who steadies the ship. The one who nods along, tells them it is going to be okay, and means it. Flashbacks came hard. My sister sobbing on my shoulder the night she found out her fiancé was cheating. She used up 3 hours of my Saturday, cried through my favorite movie, then left right after saying, "You always know how to make me feel better." My response, "Glad I could help." She never asked how I was. She still does not. Or my buddy Jason, back in college. He would come into my dorm half drunk, slurring about how much he hated his dad. I would sit there for hours, just letting him vent, even though I had a calculus exam in the morning. He passed. I failed. Jason barely remembers those nights. I never forgot them. Back to the break room. I stood there staring at my half-empty coffee cup. Thought about how many people call me when they're spiraling. How many numbers I have on my phone that only light up when someone's life is in shambles. And I could not remember the last time I called someone for help. Or if I ever even tried. I always told myself I was just low maintenance. That it was better this way. That I did not want to be a burden. But the truth? I have been drowning in silence for years. And the worst part is, I have trained everyone around me to think that is fine. I took a slow sip of coffee, bitter as hell, left the break room without saying a word. Nobody noticed. That was the first day I felt it. This hollow space growing in my chest. Something was shifting. I did not know what yet, but I could feel the ground starting to crack beneath my feet. And what happened that night? That was the beginning of the break. That night was like any other. Or at least, it started that way. I was sitting in my apartment. Tiny one-bedroom, walls too thin, fridge that hums like a jet engine. I had a leftover slice of pizza on the counter and one of those crime documentaries playing low in the background. Just noise to fill the silence. Then my phone lit up. First it was Candace, a coworker who always called me when her anxiety flared up. Then Eric, my cousin, who was knee-deep in some drama with his ex. Both messages came in within 5 minutes of each other. Both were paragraphs. Neither of them started with, "Hey, how are you?" Candace's said, "I'm spiraling again. Can I call you?" Eric said, "Man, I need your advice. Please don't ignore me like everyone else." I stared at the screen. I could already feel the pull. That familiar guilt. That voice in my head going, "Come on, they need you. It's not that big a deal. You can handle it." And I almost did. My thumb hovered over Candace's name. But then something happened. Something stupid. I remembered last week. I was at a bar with a few people from work. Jason, yeah, that Jason from college, was there. He had gotten married since then. Corporate gig. Polished guy now. We were all sitting at the corner booth, and I had just mentioned in passing that I was thinking about going back to school. Just testing the waters, you know? Jason cut me off mid-sentence to ask Marcus what he thought about the new sales director. That was it. One sentence in. Nobody circled back. Nobody even noticed. That memory hit me like a gut punch. I had forgotten how raw it still was. That quiet little dismissal that felt like being erased in real time. So I did not answer the texts. I did not open the messages. I just set the phone down, flipped it over, and stared at the blank ceiling above me. For a while, I sat there thinking maybe I would snap, cry, break down, do something dramatic, like scream into a pillow or smash a glass. But it was not like that. The feeling was cold, controlled. Like something inside me had frozen over instead of boiling up. Like my heart had just shut the blinds. I did not feel sad. I felt tired. Deep in your bones kind of tired. The kind that wraps around you like a wet coat and will not come off. That was the night I stopped answering. Not just the texts. Everything. No replies. No advice. No late-night pep talks. I ghosted the world. Not in some dramatic way, but in the slow, quiet way people do when they finally realize nobody's listening anyway. I started going through the motions. Nodding less. Smiling less. The "you good, man?" I used to throw out like confetti? Gone. And guess what? No one asked me why. Not yet. But it was coming. Because when the listener finally goes silent, people notice. Just not the way you expect. The first person to notice was Amy. She worked the front desk at my job, mid-40s, 2 kids, husband in construction. She always had stories. Always. Her cat peed on the carpet again. Her teenager slammed another door. Her mom fell for a Facebook scam. She would unload all of it during my morning coffee refill like I was her emotional landfill. But that Monday, when she started rambling about how her youngest was failing math, I just stood there. No nods. No, that sounds rough. Just nothing. I stared straight ahead, let her voice wash over me like background music. I did not even look up when she paused. That pause. That was the first crack in the system. She stopped mid-sentence and asked, "You okay?" I said, "I am just tired." And then came that awkward chuckle, the one people use when they do not know how to handle silence. "Oh, well, you're always tired. You'll bounce back." Then she walked off, back into her day, like that was enough, like I was still enough. But I felt it, the tiniest shift in the air, like the world had leaned in just slightly and gone. Wait, that was different. More days passed, more silence. I used to send check-in texts. "You good? Need anything? How's your week looking?" Now I sent nothing. I watched the group chat go on without me. Jokes, complaints, memes. Everyone assumed I was reading. No one asked why I had gone quiet. Then Candace cornered me in the break room again. I had not responded to her in over a week, not even a thumbs-up emoji. She said, "Hey, are we good? You've been distant." I shrugged. I just got nothing left to say right now. She blinked, tilted her head. Did I do something? I told her no, which was the truth. It was not about her, not really. It was about all of them. She stood there, waiting for me to open up. When I didn't, she looked uncomfortable. And then she did what most people do when the emotional well runs dry. She backed away, mumbled, "All right," and left. It was weird. You would think after years of absorbing everyone's hurt, someone would care when you stopped trying. But it was like I had become furniture that suddenly stopped working. They noticed, but not for the reasons I hoped. I got home that night, checked my phone, and saw something strange. Not a call, not a message, a voicemail from Marcus. I played it on speaker while I changed out of my work clothes. "Hey man, just checking in. You've been real quiet. Hope everything's all right. Hit me back when you can." His voice was thin, not worried, just confused. I stared at the phone for a while after that. Thought maybe this was it. Maybe this was the start of people actually noticing. But the next day, nothing. Just silence again. And yet, something was building beneath it. Because silence does not stay quiet forever. It echoes. And those echoes? They were about to make a lot of people uncomfortable. It was Thursday morning when the real cracks showed. Every week, the team did this thing called wellness check-in. Basically a big circle in the conference room where everyone shared one personal win and one stressor. HR said it fostered empathy. What it really did was give people a chance to vent, perform a little, and hope someone listened long enough to nod. I used to be the guy who made that whole thing work. I would nod at the right times, offer follow-ups, say something like, "That sounds tough, but you're handling it." And people would leave smiling like they had just gotten therapy. But that week, I sat in the same chair I always did, arms folded, mouth shut. When it got to me, everyone looked over. Our supervisor, Claire, said, "You're up, man." I leaned back and said, "Pass." Just that. One word. But you would have thought I had stood up and flipped the table. Silence. Heads turned. Claire blinked like she had misheard. "You want to skip?" "I already did," I said. More silence. Somebody let out a weird half-laugh, the kind people do when they are hoping you are joking. But I was not. A guy from marketing named Luis said, "Wait, are you okay?" That was the first real question anyone had asked me in weeks. I looked at him. Not through him, at him. And I said, I do not know. That was it. No breakdown. No oversharing. Just the truth. Plain, raw, sitting on the table like a coffee stain no one knew what to do with. People got real quiet after that. The usual rhythm of the meeting cracked. Claire moved on to the next person too fast, like skipping past a broken note in a song. The rest of the check-in felt off balance, like everyone had one eye on me, waiting to see what I would say next. I said nothing. Afterward, Candace walked up to me. She started with, "Hey, just checking." I stopped her. "You do not have to check in. I am not mad. I am just tired of only being the one who listens." She opened her mouth, closed it. I could see the gears turning. She wanted to say something comforting, but nothing came out. That was the theme of the week. People started noticing, but they had no idea what to do with it. Like I had flipped the script and they had not gotten the new lines. By Friday, even Marcus stopped by my desk. He said he missed our talks, that things felt off, that I seemed different. I asked him, different how? He shrugged. Quieter. Like, something's missing. I just nodded. Maybe now you know how it feels. His face dropped like I had slapped him. But I had not raised my voice. I had not cursed. I had just told the truth. And honestly, that truth was starting to feel powerful. Not angry. Not vengeful. Just real. I was not trying to punish anybody. But I was done letting them drink from my well while I sat there thirsty. And I think they were starting to realize. They might have needed me more than they ever admitted. The silence kept spreading like a ripple. 1 week in, and I had stopped answering messages that used to be second nature. No more got you. No more want to talk. I still showed up. Still clocked in. Still did my job. But the part of me that carried everybody else, that part had checked out. And you know what happens when the emotional glue disappears. People start slipping. Candace had her first real meltdown on Monday. I was walking past the small meeting room and heard her voice cracking. Quiet, but shaky in that way people try to hide. I paused. Instinct almost pulled me in. But I kept walking. I found out later she had cried in front of Claire. Said something about feeling overwhelmed. Said nobody was listening to her. Marcus had a rough day too. He messed up a sales report, badly. Normally I would have caught it. Usually he brought it to me first. But this time, he never asked. And I never offered. The fallout landed hard. Public correction in the team chat. He left early that day. Said he had a migraine. Little things. But they added up. Outside of work, my cousin Eric stopped texting. He had sent me a long voice memo over the weekend. I never played it. Just deleted it without listening. He tried again Monday. Then nothing. And honestly, it felt good. Not in a twisted way. Just clean. Quiet. Like walking out of a room that had been way too loud for way too long. But something strange happened that night. I got home, threw my keys on the counter, and saw a voicemail from my sister. She never calls. Not unless she needs something. The message was short. Nervous. Hey. So, weird question. Are you okay? I've been thinking about you lately. Just yeah. Call me. I did not call back. Not because I hated her. Just, I wanted to sit with that message for a bit. To feel what it meant when someone finally noticed the silence. You know what it felt like? Relief. Not because I was finally getting attention, but because, for once, I had not had to beg for it. The next morning, someone left a sticky note on my desk. It was folded twice. No name. Just said, "You're different lately, but I think you're stronger for it." I read it 3 times. My heart did not race. I did not tear up, but I felt steady, like I had finally taken my hands off a rope I had been gripping for too long. That rope? It was not support. It was a tether. One I thought was keeping everyone else from falling, but really, it was dragging me down with them. And now, it had snapped. 3 days after the note, I got a message from someone I had not heard from in over a year. Her name was Natalie. We used to be close. Real close. She was the kind of person who could talk for hours without taking a breath. And I was the guy who listened. Back then, it made sense. She had just come out of a toxic relationship. I was the steady friend. The late-night phone call. The one who picked up, no matter what time it was. We were never together, not really. But I think part of me hoped. Even when I told myself I was fine being just the listener, some part of me waited for her to ask how I was doing. She never did. Until now. The message said, "Hey, I heard from Eric you've been kind of MIA. You okay? I miss you. Call me." Miss me? That hit weird. Not because I did not miss her, I did. But because I knew exactly what that message meant. Someone in her life had stopped listening. And she was circling back to the guy who always had. I stared at it for a while. My thumb hovered over the reply button. I could already picture it, how it would go. She would talk. She would cry. I would carry the weight like always. And when she felt better, she would vanish again. That used to be enough for me. Being the safe place. The you always understand me guy. But now, I had changed. Quietly. Deeply. So I did something I never thought I would do. I replied with one sentence. I am not that version of me anymore. That was it. No explanation. No soft landing. Just the truth. She left it on read. No follow-up. No apology. Just silence. And for once, that silence did not hurt. I looked around my apartment that night. Same walls, same old fridge humming. But everything felt different. Not brighter. Just clearer. The fog was gone. I had not realized how much of my life had been spent on standby, waiting to be needed, thinking that if I was useful enough, helpful enough, supportive enough, maybe someone would eventually turn around and ask what I needed. But they never did. And maybe that was on them. But maybe some of it was on me too. Because I never said no, never drew the line, never asked for anything in return. Until now. That night, I opened a blank note on my phone and wrote one sentence. Being there for everyone else does not mean abandoning yourself. I stared at it. Then I added one more line. Starting now, I choose me. And as I typed those words, the phone buzzed again. New message. This time, from someone I had never expected. Marcus, the guy who once cut me off mid-sentence, who used to joke that I was too chill to be stressed. His message? I think I messed up. Can we talk? I met Marcus at the coffee shop down the street. Neutral territory. Nothing personal about it. Just small tables, over-roasted beans, and that fake indie vibe with vinyl on the walls nobody listens to. He was already sitting there when I walked in. Same button-down shirt, sleeves rolled, nervous smile that twitched at the corners. I sat down across from him. No handshake. No hug. He opened with, "Thanks for coming." I nodded. "You said you messed up." He flinched. Like the words hit harder out loud. I guess He looked down at his coffee, like it might help. "I didn't realize how much I depended on you." I said nothing. Let the silence fill the space like smoke. He kept talking. "I always thought you were just good at it. Being there. Listening. It never crossed my mind that you might be carrying stuff too." That part stung. Not because it was new, but because it was true. "I do not think anyone noticed how quiet you went until the office started feeling off," he added. "I mean, even Candace has been saying it. It's like something's missing." I leaned forward. "Do you know why?" He blinked. "Because you were always the glue?" I shook my head. "No, because nobody ever learned how to carry themselves. I was always doing it for them." That shut him up. I could see it, the flicker in his eyes. The recognition. Like someone had finally pointed out the thing he had been avoiding in his own reflection. He whispered, "We used you." I corrected him. "You got used to me being invisible." Another silence. Then he asked the one question I had never expected. "So what now?" And for once, I had an answer ready. "Now," I said, "I set boundaries. I choose when I listen. I choose who I listen to. And if no one asks how I'm doing, I'll be fine. But I'm done bleeding for people who never noticed I was cut." His face dropped. Not in anger, just understanding. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote something down. Stuff I didn't say before. Just things I noticed. Regrets. I took it. Did not open it. Just tucked it into my coat. Then I stood up. My chair scraped the floor a little too loud. I looked down at him, steady. "I don't hate you, Marcus. But I'm not your mirror anymore." He looked confused. "What does that mean?" I pointed to my chest. "It means I'm not just here to reflect what you feel. I exist on my own." I walked out of that shop into the gray afternoon. Air was cold, but sharp. Clean. The paper stayed in my pocket, unopened. Not because I didn't care what it said, but because I already knew the most important part. That apology? It came too late to undo the past. But maybe not too late to rewrite what comes next. It happened the next evening, right as the sun dipped low enough to drown the sky in that weird orange-gray. I had just finished washing the dishes when someone knocked on my door. Not a buzz. Not a text. A real, solid knock. 3 short raps. Then silence. At first, I thought it was my neighbor. She sometimes left packages on my mat by mistake. But when I opened the door, it was not her. It was my father. I had not seen him in almost 2 years. He stood there in a windbreaker that looked a size too big, his hair thinner than I remembered, eyes darting around like maybe he was expecting someone else to answer. He cleared his throat. I heard you've been quiet lately, he said. I did not reply. He looked down, like the ground had more answers than I ever gave him. Your sister told me you're not doing so great. I figured I'd stop by. That made me laugh. Short, dry, like air escaping a punctured tire. You came to check in? I asked. After how long? I know, he said quickly. I've been distant. Distant? This was the man who once told me crying was for weak men, who used to call me the Rock, like it was some kind of metal, when really, it was a chain. Growing up, I was the one who kept things calm. I broke up fights, covered for my sister, handled the bills when he forgot. He would yell, then come to me afterward and say, "You're the only one I can really count on." He never once asked if I was okay. Not once. So why now? I didn't know what to say, he mumbled. When your mom left, I just leaned too hard on you. I crossed my arms. You leaned only on me. He winced like I had slapped him. You're right. The silence stretched again. Then he pulled something from his jacket. A photo. Old. Faded. It was me at 12, holding up a birthday card I made for him. I had drawn a stick figure family with a giant speech bubble over my head that said, "I've got you, Dad." He handed it to me like it weighed something. I kept this, he said. Every move. Every new place. I kept it. Because it reminded me you were always there. Even when I wasn't. I looked down at it. The paper was wrinkled. Corners bent. My handwriting was crooked as hell, the way it always was when I got nervous. It made something squeeze in my chest. Not pain. Not anger. Just wait. I handed it back. I'm not that kid anymore, I said. He nodded. Slowly. I know. Then he asked me the one question I had wanted to hear for years. How are you? It hit harder than I thought it would, because I did not have a quick answer. But for the first time in my life, I was going to figure it out, and not just for other people's sake. For mine. I stood at my window that night, watching traffic crawl through the wet street below. That old birthday card still sat on the table. I had not touched it since my dad left. But it kept pulling my eye, like it still had something to say. That question, how are you, kept bouncing around in my chest. It felt heavier than anything anyone had said to me in years. Not because it was profound, but because it was rare. I finally said the answer out loud, to no one in particular. I don't know. And just like that, I broke my own silence. It was not some dramatic epiphany. No tears. No grand gesture. But it was real. And it was mine. That night, I opened my phone and did something I had never done before. I sent one group message to the 4 people who always expected me to carry them. Candace, Eric, Marcus, my sister. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your mirror. I'm not the guy who holds everything while no one holds me. I'm figuring things out now, for me. That means less answering, less fixing. If that makes me selfish, so be it. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over send. Then I hit it. No soft phrasing, no sugarcoating. And almost instantly, 3 dots popped up, then disappeared. Then again. Finally, Eric replied first. Damn, I didn't realize it was like that. I'm sorry, man. That's on me. Then Candace. You've always been there. I never even thought to ask if you were okay. I will now. That's a promise. My sister just sent a heart emoji. Marcus never replied. I expected that, but it didn't sting like it might have before. Because now I was the one setting the rhythm. I was not reacting. I was defining. For the first time, people heard me. Not just their own problems echoing back at them. Me. Later that week, I went back to that coffee shop. Same table, different purpose. Notebook in hand, pen ready. No texts. No guilt. No noise. Just silence that belonged to me. I wrote one sentence at the top of the page. I am still here, but on my own terms. It felt like reclaiming something I did not even know I had lost. My voice. It was a quiet Sunday morning. One of those gray, still kinds where the world feels like it is holding its breath. I was making coffee, thinking about going for a walk, when it happened. Another knock at the door. But this one, it felt different. No rushed pounding. No anxious rhythm. Just 3 calm, solid knocks. Like whoever was out there was not in a hurry. Like they meant to be here. I opened the door. It was Marcus. He stood there, no coffee in hand this time. No fake smile. Just him. Tired eyes. Shoulders slumped like someone who finally saw the weight they had dumped on someone else. He cleared his throat. I don't want to talk. I raised an eyebrow. I mean, he said quickly, I don't want to talk at you. I want to listen. I never did that before. Not really. I said nothing. Just stepped aside and let him in. He sat on the edge of my couch like it might reject him, hands clasped tight in his lap. I read your message, he said. And you're right. I leaned too hard. I assumed too much. I treated you like a sounding board instead of a person. And when you went quiet, I realized. I never actually knew how you were doing. Not once. He looked at me, really looked. So how are you? I stared at him for a long moment. And then I told him. Everything. Not all at once. Not dramatic. Just real. Honest. I told him about the years of being the rock. About listening until I forgot how to speak. About the quiet that started feeling safer than people. About how I had reached a point where I did not even expect anyone to care anymore. He just nodded. No interruptions. No fixing. Just listening. By the time I finished, the coffee had gone cold. The sun had moved across the sky. And for once, I did not feel empty. I felt seen. Before he left, Marcus stood in the doorway and said something I will never forget. You were always there for everyone else. But now, I want to be someone who shows up for you. No advice. No dumping. Just showing up. I nodded. We'll see. He smiled. Fair. When the door closed behind him, I exhaled something I did not realize I had been holding in for years. And that was it. No big finale. No dramatic music swelling in the background. Just this quiet understanding. I am not the fixer anymore. I am not the sponge. I am a whole person. And I have boundaries now. Not out of spite. Not out of bitterness. But because I finally understand something it took me far too long to learn. Being kind does not mean being used. Being strong does not mean being silent. And being the listener? That only works when someone listens back.